Engagers, this is Professor Game, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking who bring us the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration to help us in the process of using games and gamification in our daily lives, for example, to learn what we are teaching. And I am Rob Alvarez. I work at Ironhack, teach at IE Business School University, and so much more, and host this podcast. If you have an extra second, please go ahead and subscribe for free to our email list at professorgame.com/subscribe. Engagers, welcome back to another episode of the Professor Game podcast, and today we have a different episode of a slightly different topic as well. As some of you may or may not know, a very renowned and very inspiring author in the world of gamification and many other areas as well, recently passed away. This is Professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. If you want to have that spelled out, just look for this episode and you will see it. The first name is Mihaly. That's going to be the easiest way to find it on professorgame.com if you want to find this episode and the full naming of this very, very, very powerful professor in that sense. I don't usually like to do this because, there's many tragedies and many things that happen in the world, but I did want to make a small homage to Professor Csikszentmihalyi because the impact that he's had as a professor, as a researcher, and as an author, he has inspired the gamification journey, or part of the gamification journey of many of us, definitely myself included. Many of the friends I've made as well in the world of gamification base a huge part of their work in his inspiration, in his work, in his research on what he coined, quite a few years ago as flow. And that's the name of his book as well, The Theory of Flow. I think that the name is A Theory of Flow, but I can put a link to his book or books in the show notes page so you can find it there. And a very simplified version, a very, watered down version of what his theory of flow is all about is that he explains that there should be a balance between the ability and the challenge that we are posed on. Of course, when you are in that nice place of balance, you're able to reach that state of flow. Is that sensation, when you are so engrossed in a task, so engrossed in whatever it is that you're doing that you feel, you don't realize how time is passing. You are at peak performance. You have no distractions, like everything is focused on that. I'm sure all of us have experienced that at one point or another, whether it is, playing a game, whether you're an artist as well. This happens a lot when people are performing arts. They get into a state of flow where, nothing else matters, just like the name of the song. Nothing else matters. Everything is focused on that activity, that artistic endeavor. It could be a musician, it could be a performing artist of any type. Get so engrossed into it that nothing else around them is important. It could be about writing as well, or even, trust me on this one, it could be even at work or when you're learning about something. Of course, the level of importance has to be there for you, and the level of challenge and your ability have to be in the right spot. There is a lot more to be discussed about this topic. I am definitely far from being an expert on this. In fact, in a couple of weeks or maybe a little bit more, we will have this is just by chance, the interview already happened. We will have somebody who was actually working with Professor Csikszentmihalyi for his PhD. And he probably would be a better person to reach out if you want more information on that, because he made his PhD thesis around Professor Csikszentmihalyi. So I'm sure he will be much better prepared to answer many of these questions. But there's a lot going around on the internet. There's a lot of talk around flow in gamification. There's a lot of discussion as well around flow in work, even definitely in education. And within our realm, within what we are very, very focused and interested in, which is, of course, games-based solutions, games-based learning, gamification, whether flow, the state of flow, is actually a desired outcome or something you're aiming at constantly, it's a huge discussion. There's a huge discussion on whether it should be, you're always looking for flow and you want people to be in the state of flow, and that's a main objective, or not, just like with fun as well. Wherever you are in that discussion, or if you have any position at all, even the fact that there is a discussion around this, the impact of Mihaly's work is not only undeniable, but the impact is also huge. It is immense. Think that, like, maybe for us now, this theory, this whole discussion around flow in general. I mean, I'm from 1985, so this happened even before I was born. So for many of us, even, fathoming that there was, a time before this was almost common knowledge, right? That, you have to balance out, and that there is such a thing as a state of flow when there's a good balance between difficulty of a task, the challenge of whatever it is you're doing, and your ability. It's like, well, and how did we understand this even before that? Like, what was going on? Of course, this has probably been going on for thousands of years, but the fact that there is a unified theory and that it is even a target in many circumstances, it is absolutely huge. Understanding these two elements, and that's why another reason I wanted to bring it today is that understanding that these two elements of ability and challenge, that we, even, again, it can be common knowledge now, but even just looking into that when you are designing your gamification, when you are designing anything around learning as well. Again, it might sound obvious, but it's like precisely because it sounds so obvious, very, very often we are able to forget about that. So even considering that, even thinking about that circumstance, the fact that whatever challenge you're posing to your students might not be at their level or might be well below their level, thinking about that and how that affects the engagement of your class, how that affects the learning of your students, how that affects, if you're going into gamification, that engagement, that it could be possible there. If you're even aiming, or that could be even something interesting to you, taking them to a state of flow, it is because you're balancing out well enough that ability and that challenge that you're posing off for them. And this, this is a very short episode compared to what we usually do. Completely different as well. We've already had a few solo episodes before, non-interview, but it is not our typical episode. I just wanted to offer this small heartfelt thank you and celebration to the life of Professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi for his life's work. All the inspiration that he has brought to field of psychology, of course, and to all of us that are involved in games and gamification, whether you know that the state of flow is something that came from Professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi or not. I'm pretty sure that you've at least experienced it, at the very least experienced it in some way, shape, or form, maybe by another name or whatever else. I'm sure you've probably also heard about it as well. And again, in one way or another, hopefully you are taking it into consideration for your creations, for your design, for your work as a gamification designer, game designer, games-based learning designer, creator, professor, teacher, educator in general, or whatever it is you're doing out there in the world of engagement, psychology, behavioral design. This is a crucial theory to take into consideration, and that has been used to plenty of success, intentionally or even unintentionally often as well. So once again, heartfelt, public thank you from, me personally. I'm sure that, most, if not all, of the gamification community. Hopefully all of you engagers as well, can join me in this heartfelt thank you for the life and the work of such an impactful, researcher, professor, and author as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So thanks again. Hopefully, this episode brings us back to a little bit of that reflection as well, to thinking about our designs in a different way, and can bring you some inspiration. And if you haven't, definitely go ahead and read some of his research, some of his books. It'll all be in the show notes page if you want. Well, some of this will be in the show notes page for sure. So again, thank you very much, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and I'll see you there.